It's Thursday, September 24th, and this is now on HNN.
And it makes no sense.
Oahu's new emergency order goes into effect, loosening some restrictions.
It's not giving an opportunity for businesses to recover.
Staff at a Hilo veterans home are being harassed as the facility faces growing questions about safety protocols.
I mean, there was time when they didn't have people manning the desk and so forth, so it was almost like we thought we were immune.
The airline industry begging Congress for help. Time is running out to keep workers on the job.
These stories, plus United Airlines is offering rapid COVID tests to passengers, starting with a Hawaii route. Details coming up on This Is Now.
New today, Honolulu police have launched an investigation into a shooting in Kalihi. This is just a few hours ago. The call came in around 8:15 this morning at the 7-Eleven at the intersection of Kalihi Street and Nimitz Highway. Emergency medical services treated a 46-year-old man and transported him to the hospital in serious condition. A heavy police presence was seen shortly after the incident occurred. Officials have not yet released further details.
And we have some breaking news we want to tell you guys about. Honolulu fire crews are at the scene of a brush fire near Manoa. Officials say the blaze is on the WAAHILA Ridge near the stream side of the campus. Police are also on scene and asking the public to avoid the area, including East-West Road and Maile Way. You can see the fire burning up the hillside. We have a crew there and we'll bring you any developments as we get them.
Yeah, this is a live picture coming into the HNN Digital Center right now. You can see that smoke still billowing. This has been going on for quite some time. We're going to keep an eye on it. We have a crew at the scene. We'll keep you updated with any details that we get right here on This Is Now. But we also want to let you know that there is a press conference coming up here very shortly with Mayor Caldwell. We expect to get a lot of updates from him as well. So a lot of news to get to today, but we also want to let you know about the latest coronavirus numbers.
The state health department says 2 more patients with COVID-19 have died, bringing Hawaii's official death toll to 124. DOH is also reporting 90 new cases today. The breakdown shows 81 are on Oahu, 5 are on the Big Island, and 2 in Maui County. We have not been provided the details of the remaining 2 cases just yet. We want to take you live outside now to Hawaii Kiki. If we have that shot, no shot on that. Okay, well anyway, like we said, there are United is easing restrictions on Oahu in just a moment, but first, United Airlines is rolling out a rapid COVID testing program in San Francisco for flights to the Aloha State. Chris Van Cleve got an exclusive look at the program.
I'm getting tested.
United employee Eduardo Marquez is getting the rapid COVID test passengers at San Francisco Airport will soon be taking just hours before departing for Hawaii.
It was simple, fast, not invasive at all.
United is the first U.S. airline to roll out a COVID testing program for passengers starting October 15th. Bay Area flyers bound for Hawaii will be given the option to order an at-home testing kit or reserve a time for a rapid test at the airport.
And we really see this as a great opportunity to provide access to testing for our customers to get them back in the air and traveling as safely as possible.
Hawaii has been largely closed to tourists since March, but next month, with proof of a negative COVID test result within 72 hours prior to arrival, the state will waive its 2-week quarantine. Hawaii officials will verify those results as flights come in. Richard Pagano flew to Maui Wednesday.
Because if it got me out of quarantine for 2 weeks, it's a lot of extra time back to me. Can also make sure that I'm not getting my friends sick or anyone who is in the risk zone sick.
The rapid testing at SFO is already available to airport and airline employees. It takes about 20 minutes from arrival to result and initially will cost $250. The at-home kit will be $80 plus shipping and go to this San Francisco lab for processing. Flyers will have results within 48 hours. United hopes to eventually expand testing options to its hubs across the country in cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. United sees this effort as a major step towards reconnecting the U.S. with international travel. Airlines are pushing for, quote, air bridges between major cities like New York and London that would require pre-flight COVID tests for all on board. American Airlines says it is now also considering a rapid testing program. German carrier Lufthansa will start rapid testing some passengers for COVID next month. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Dulles Airport.
We want to stay on this topic of the struggling airline industry for just a little bit more. You know, CARES Act funds, they're helping pay for airline workers' salaries, wages, benefits, but that money's all about to dry up at the end of the month. That is, if Congress doesn't act fast. Washington reporter Jillian Angeline takes a closer look at that side of the story.
So it's devastating all across the industry.
David Suppley, an American Airlines mechanic for more than 40 years, took a voluntary separation from the company in April after the pandemic hit. The airline was cutting jobs and offering benefits to people who agreed to leave.
I'm in a position where it was beneficial that I could go, hopefully saving somebody else's position.
Suppley is one of thousands who left an airline job he loves because of the economic downturn. Right now, he's representing workers for the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers Union, which includes major airlines and regional ones, like Air Wisconsin and Hawaiian Airlines. Suppley says he's seen so many lose their jobs since COVID-19 hit.
There's nothing out there for people.
Major airlines, unions, and workers are pleading with Congress to extend payroll protections to keep thousands of workers employed. They're asking for an additional $25 billion through March next year.
Are we working to try to resolve this? Absolutely. Are we trying to make this a priority? Yes.
Louisiana Congressman Garrett Graves is a ranking member on the House Subcommittee on Aviation. He says he's fighting to include more assistance for the airlines in a funding package by October 1st. Veronique Desrougy at George Mason University says bailouts are not the answer. She says the airline should declare bankruptcy instead.
Bankruptcy doesn't mean an airline is going under. What it means is that it's keeping off some creditors at bay.
Desrougy says continuing to help the airlines will come at a high cost to taxpayers. In Washington, I'm Jillian Angeline.
And new at noon, in a stunning reversal, the Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation's board today refused to fire CEO Andy Robbins a week after Chairman Toby Martin claimed he had the votes to do so. Robbins' fate with HART, however, is still up in the air because his 3-year contract expires at the end of the year. So far, the HART board has taken no action to extend it. The news comes just a day after Hawaii News Now reported that a new set of documents released by HART showed that construction may need to be pushed back by as much as 4 years, potentially adding tens of millions of dollars in extra costs. Critics have said changing HART's leadership at this point would only hurt the project even more.
And there you see part of the story we just posted to our H&N digital platforms. You can check it out there if you want to read more about this. We'll have the very latest coming up on First at 4 with Ashley and Mark. I want to stick with that transportation topic because a lot of you are wondering when cruise ship visitors will return to the islands. We had CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg talk to him this morning, or heard from him this morning. Here's what he had to say about it.
Developing comprehensive plans for disinfecting, room design, floor plans, and of course, testing. And part and parcel of that announcement by the cruise lines is that they're now going to test every crew member and every passenger with 100%. Otherwise, you can't get on the ship. Well, duh, of course they are. In fact, my guess is the cruise lines are never going to sail without that testing.
Some restrictions are loosening today on Oahu. Social gatherings of up to 5 people from different households are now allowed, except for at restaurants. Governor Ige signed off on Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell's emergency rules yesterday, so we're now in the first day of Tier 1. And here's what everyday citizens are saying about the changes.
I'm most concerned about all the small businesses. I think that what's missing is that there are many small businesses that are not included in this, that if there were the resources available for a team to investigate what measures that they have in place to protect themselves and their clients or customers, whatever the business is, and there would be such an incentive for them to remain open regardless, because otherwise they would be shut down for potentially forever. And for many of them, I just can't see them surviving this plan, this present plan, without some modifications.
It's not giving an opportunity for businesses to recover, and we're not even getting the financial support also from some of the commercial rent. relief programs out there aren't really kind of taking place. People don't have money, they don't have jobs, so people can't, if you have a business, it's hard enough to even open up, but then who's going to come in?
It's very discriminatory against single people who heretofore couldn't even have anybody into their house. Now we can't even go with a friend out to indoor dining. So we're left with no socialization, and it makes no sense to me. I don't think that the numbers that we're experiencing in Hawaii justifies this.
Parks and beaches are back open today for groups of up to 5, but there are some restrictions you should know about. Billy V has more.
Nate is with us. Nate Sirota from the Department of Parks and Recreation, City and County of Honolulu. Let's talk exercise this morning. Let's start with pools.
Yes, so actually pools are scheduled to reopen on Monday, and it will be the similar restrictions that we had with that first round of COVID reopenings, where it's just open for lap swimming. If it gets too filled up quickly, we'll have a sign-in sheet for people to sign in, so that when the hour time limit is up, we'll rotate out.
Let's talk about organized versus play around.
Sure. So, permitted team sports, that's significantly far down on the tiered reopenings. That's not until we get to groups of 25, so in tier 4. Right now, the group activity limit is 5 people maximum, regardless of household. So if you come here, the outdoor play courts will be opening today. So if you have doubles tennis, that's perfectly fine.
Let's talk about indoor facilities and gyms.
Sure. So currently we have not reopened those yet during the pandemic. The only thing we did reopen them for was our summer fun program, and we had really strict cleanliness and kind of physical distancing protocols in place for that. So currently no scheduled reopening time for that.
Team sports in tier 4?
Correct. That's the, you're talking with team sports, we're talking about like the little leagues, the soccer clubs and things like that. And the reason we did that is because it takes a little bit longer for us to get to that group activity level, because we expect spectators with those kind of activities.
Okay, let's talk about the exercise equipment, and we've got the exercise equipment that's behind us people can use, right?
Correct. So exercise equipment along with playgrounds, skate parks, off-leash dog parks, and outdoor play courts will reopen today. Correct.
We're hearing from a healthcare worker who went inside that Hilo veterans home before the deadly outbreak began. He said he witnessed firsthand how lax the procedures were there. Mahealani Richardson has much more.
Over a period of time since about April, it started to get a little bit more lax.
Avery Chesser was a phlebotomist with Clinical Labs of Hawaii who recently left over an attendance dispute. He says he would draw blood from the quarantine patients at the State Veterans Home in Hilo and other facilities. He says the vets facility was vigilant at first, but then staff became lax with protocols and PPE.
People were going in and out of the room, maybe to do something quick. Like, oh, Auntie needs help to go to the restroom, or needs help with wants a cup of coffee or something like quick, right? So they would just go in, because there's a shortage of PPE, they wouldn't gown up and they wouldn't get the protective things, but they would go in almost thinking like they were immune.
Avalon Healthcare, which manages the home, insists they followed government protocols, and now its staff has been the target of threats. Quote, "They're being harassed on social media and when out in the community. It breaks our hearts that this is occurring. They are healthcare heroes who are putting themselves in harm's way to care for the residents whom they love like family."
Somebody's responsible.
John McDermott, the long-term care ombudsman for the State Health Department's Office of Aging, says one family lost both father and mother who were living at the veterans home.
People are angry and folks are still dying. This is not over yet. This is not really contained yet. And this is why facilities are supposed to jump on it immediately. Red flag, this COVID in the building, we have to contain this.
Now, one of the recommendations from the Veterans Affairs Tiger team was for the home to conduct more regular staff training.
President Trump was booed as he paid his respects to the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg this morning. The president is preparing to announce a replacement for Justice Ginsburg this weekend. He says he wants the nominee confirmed before the election. 2 Louisville police officers are in the hospital after they were shot during last night's protests. Demonstrators are outraged that a grand jury decided not to charge any police officers in the killing of Breonna Taylor. Jerika Duncan has more.
Officer down, right there. Officer down. Officials in Louisville say they have video that shows 26-year-old Lorenzo Johnson shooting 2 police officers during last night's protests following the grand jury's decision in the Breonna Taylor case.
I'm extremely happy to report that one of them was treated and released from University Hospital with a leg wound, and the other, who was struck in the abdomen, is in stable condition after undergoing significant surgeries and is expected to recover.
Although protests started peacefully, there were reports of garbage can fires, damaged vehicles, and looting. Police made 127 arrests. The protests came after months of waiting for a decision in Taylor's case. Former Louisville detective Brett Hankinson was indicted for endangering lives when he fired 10 shots into an apartment next to Taylor's. Hankinson was arrested and released on bail. Officers Jonathan Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove, who fired the shot that killed Taylor, will not face state criminal charges.
The use of force by Mattingly and Cosgrove was justified to protect themselves.
Taylor was killed on March 13th as police executed a search warrant for drugs and money. Neither were found. Her boyfriend Kenneth Walker says he believed the police were intruders, so he fired a single shot which hit Mattingly in the thigh. Police returned fire. 6 shots hit Taylor.
Did somebody kick in the door inside my girlfriend?
Walker has maintained police did not identify themselves before they used a battering ram on the door. Cameron said the officers did knock and announce.
That information was corroborated by another witness.
But attorneys for Walker and Taylor say that witness initially told police he did not hear the officers announce themselves, and an additional 12 neighbors said the same thing. Attorneys want to know what evidence the grand jury was shown.
We are demanding that he release that transcript so we can see if there was any evidence. Did Breonna have any voice in that grand jury proceeding?
The FBI is conducting a separate investigation. One of the things they'll be looking into is whether or not police obtained that warrant using false information. Meanwhile, Hankinson is under investigation by an FBI-led task force for alleged sexual assault claims in another case unrelated to Breonna Taylor's. Jerika Duncan, CBS News, Louisville, Kentucky.
And happening right now, Mayor Caldwell is holding a press conference on the city's efforts to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 among Oahu's homeless population. Let's listen in.
And I am somewhat feeling relieved about that folks can start to begin going back to a life that's a little bit easier for everyone. But we can never let our guard down. We're here also to celebrate an incredible thing that is taking place here at Kehe Lagoon, and that is the POST program that we see here. 5 different sectors of communities of individuals who otherwise would not have a home. Some who are still living down on Nimitz, clustered together in the most difficult living conditions imaginable, or on Dillingham Boulevard, right in the corner of Dillingham and King Street. Exhaust, heat, no restrooms, nowhere to bathe, no food, nothing. And the program we're talking about here, POST, was really a continuation of the HONOLULU program that started last year, at the end of last year, in December of 2019. And the birth father of that program is Captain Lambert, right here. Huh? Major Lambert now. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not a stickler. Thank you.
All the credit goes to General Lambert, right here. Major, he got a promotion. That's right, he got a promotion. Sorry about that. Thanks, Brandy. No, here, we went to the police department maybe 2 years ago and said, can you help us with our homeless challenges? How do we get more people into shelter? And instead of saying, well, it's not our problem, Mayor, it's your problem, they stepped up with a proposal, and it came out of Major Lambert's head and heart, and said, we can do something. We can do this HONOLULU program that would move around the island in temporary locations in parks and other areas for no more than 90 days in which we get the homeless folks in that part of the community to come together in a tent-like city where they get all the services they need, where they'd have restrooms, they'd get food and everything else. And this program started in December. It went to March of 2020, just as the pandemic was hitting. First at Waipahu Culture Garden Park, of which they provided services to 253 individuals who otherwise would not have a...
That's Mayor Caldwell there giving us an update on the city's response to COVID-19. For our digital audience, we'll dip back into that shortly after our KHNL show. Want to take you outside live again. Check it out. That brush fire is still burning near the UH campus. Let's get a check of all the conditions out there. Here's Guy Hoggy with an update.
How's it on this Thursday? We have a more traditional textbook trade wind weather coming in. The heavy rain that swamped the Big Island yesterday, that's pretty much done, although it is a little damp on the Puna side this morning. Those showers are definitely lighter than the heavy rain that swamped them yesterday. And we'll see more typical trade wind weather today. Sunny leeward, a few windward and Milka showers, really not much rain out there. In fact, even drier conditions are expected for the weekend. And then at least we have some breezy trade winds that will help with the humidity levels from going up to high. Now the surf's going to be rising today for north and west shores, especially north shores. This is more of a northerly swell, so not every spot will be catching it very well, but it's going to be big enough so that if you're if you're a beginner in surfing, you should definitely stay away from the north shore. And we've got a little pulse rolling into the south shore and more pulses due into the south shore this weekend. So we'll have another nice day today with lots of sunshine, high temperatures running around 90 degrees, so load up on the sunblock. We'll have more details on air and online.
Thank you, Guy. All right, the internet's buzzing, you guys, and this is what we found. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station had to pull a quick maneuver to avoid a piece of space debris from hitting them on Tuesday. NASA says this is the third time in the last 2 weeks the space station has come into close contact with space trash. It actually happened 3 times this year already. No crew members were harmed, and the astronauts were able to resume regular activities once the maneuver was completed. There are millions of pieces of spacecrafts, parts of rockets, and out-of-commission satellites in low Earth orbit.
NASA has been saying for some time that space junk could pose a big problem for the launch of satellites and future missions.
Yep. And if you guys love coffee, listen up. The personal finance site Wallet Hub has ranked the best coffee cities in the U.S. Now, researchers compared 100 of the largest cities in America, and they looked at everything from the number of coffee shops in the city to the average price for a cup of coffee. And they found that, no surprise, Seattle, Washington was the best city for coffee lovers, followed by San Francisco, Portland, and then Miami.
That really is no surprise. You really think of those cities and you think coffee.
Yep.
All right, let's do some more good news.
That's right.
I love this music.
I wanted to show you guys something. These pants and this shirt I'm making with the Hui. Made a line called Aloha J.
So local boy Jason Momoa teamed up with Dahui to release his signature clothing line called Aloha J. You can buy pre-order shirts, shorts, and pants at store.shopalohaj.com. You can also, the money will also go to Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii to help protect our reefs.
And those iconic pants.
Yeah. Very cool. And we want to give a special shout out to THIS.IS.NOW's newest viewer, my baby nephew Marcus. My brother Ryan and my sister-in-law Dee Dee welcomed him to the world last night, and he is 7 pounds, 6 ounces, 20 inches long, and I will be on the first flight to Kauai as soon as that inter-island quarantine is dropped.
Yeah, they were watching us from the hospital room. That's so cool, guys. That's going to do it for This Is Now Digital Audience. Stay with us because we're going to continue Mayor Caldwell's presser.